measure again. Now, for a bowl, because a great amount, that's still about 7/8 of an inch, so I'm going to go a tiny bit more. For a bowl, a lot of the sort of personality of a bowl comes out of what the foot of the bowl looks like and what the rim of the bowl looks like. So when you're determining the thickness of the floor of a bowl, you may leave more clay there so that you can get a very distinct foot when you go to trim. Right. So you wouldn't make this bowl as thin a floor as you might make on a cylinder. And then I'm going to go, now I have a rim, so I'm going to compress my rim like I always do. So now opening in for a bowl is a different sort of a thing. Because in a cylinder, say I was using my thumbs to open out, I would have come from here and I would go straight across the floor, right? So now in a bowl, instead of going straight across to make that flat floor, I'm actually going to use my thumbs and I'm going to bring them up toward the palm of my hand. And what that does is that it creates a cone-shaped opening on the inside. So I'm going to get my fingers in there and actually do that. So see that my fingers of both hands are anchored down around the bottom of the clay, right? And here come my thumbs. And the thumbs are moving toward the palms of both hands. Cool. And what I have created in there now is a cone shape that has it's kind of a sharp curve right now, but it's a continuous curve going all the way around. So that's how I open in. And what it leaves me with in terms of how the mound of clay looks right now is that it is thin at the top and thick at the bottom, and that's just fine. So I've cleaned the water out of there, and I'm going to go back and compress my rim again. Remember, you need to compress your rim every time you manipulate your clay in order to keep the pot on center. All right, so now the next step here would be to compress the bottom of the pot. And in a cylinder, we were doing an action where we started at the middle and went straight out to the wall and came back. Well, if we were to try to do that with this cone shape that we have inside of here, we'd have to literally be bringing our fingers up the other side. So it doesn't work to go forward, but it works to come from the middle point up to the rim, coming toward me. So this is how I do that. I actually start, and I'm using pretty much my middle finger and a little bit of my ring finger, and I start down at the bottom, and I come up to the rim, and then back down to that middle point down inside. And I'm retaining that cone shape. And again, I tell people that are just starting to do this to do it about 10 times. And this is, again, compressing the clay that's on the bottom of the pot. Now, with bowls, because of the way that we make them, we may get a lot more chance to compress the bottom of this pot because we're working on the inside a whole lot. Versus when we made the cylinder, we really didn't get into the bottom except when we deliberately did it at the beginning. So there's my compressed floor of my pot, and there's really no water in there, so I don't have to clean it out, and then I'm compressing my rim. So see how the A is there, the letter A? All right. So now I'm going to start to pull this bowl up, and now I have a different situation from the cylinder, because in the cylinder my inside hand started at that right angle down at the bottom, right? But now I don't have a right angle anymore. So I'm going to be starting in here from the midpoint of that sort of cone shape. And I get my right hand into position on the outside. I'm at 4 o'clock on the clock face, as always. And I see how I have my hands braced together. Okay. So I start to sweep with my inside hand. And once I get a feeling of a bite of clay between both hands, then I really start to exert pressure and pull upward just like any other pot that I would be pulling.
Do you start from
So this pot, even though it's getting taller and is a bowl because it has a rounded inside, it is going to look a whole lot like a cylinder for quite a while.
The outside of it.
What?
The outside of it?
Yes, the outside of it. The inside will look like a bowl, but the outside will look like pretty much like a cylinder. And in this way of making bowls, I don't let it flare out very much. I only let it flare out slightly. So there's none of that collaring in thing like we did with the cylinder to keep the cylinder upright. But I just make sure that I don't pull this out so far that it really begins to have a wide rim. And notice that I'm leaving a nice beefy rim right up here, right? And I'm doing that for the same reason that I kept a goodly amount of clay underneath the bowl, because again, the foot and the rim are what give a bowl most of its personality. So I want meat up there to use to make a rim. So I work on getting the clay that's on the wheel there and bringing that up into the pot. But a bowl is very much a suspended form. It's suspended sort of in an upright way between the rim that we keep nice and firm and the clay that's on the wheel head. And in order to, because it's sort of coming out and over its base, at least a little bit now and a whole lot later, I need to keep it strong so that it won't fall down. And I do that by keeping the wall in this area fairly strong. So I would not push a bowl as far as I would push a cylinder in terms of trying to get all the clay up into the pot. Because if I do that, in most cases, I'm going to end up with a bowl that's weak that wants to fall down. And there are many different philosophies on that whole thing, but this is the one that I have been taught and it works. So again, I'm still working on getting clay up here. This is about a 3-pound bowl, so it's somewhere between the typical soup or cereal sized bowl and the one that you take your mashed potatoes to the table in, which is like a 4-pound bowl. So I'm going to take one more pull here. Just get some more clay up here. Again, all the same principles hold. Quiet hands, no herky-jerky, no looking away and stopping your hands at any one point. So it looks like a slightly flared bowl if you look at the outside right now, doesn't it? And if you could see the inside, you would see that it has got still a continuous curve. Yeah. And I get that by always starting at the middle with my inside hand. All right. So what I'm going to do now that I have the bowl pulled is that I'm going to flare out the rim a bit. And that has a reason. So I'm using that inside hand to kind of press outward just in this upper third of the pot. And it makes like a little shelf area. Okay. So now let's talk about, where's my rag? Let's talk about what I'm going to do next. This is not yet a bowl in the form that we would want to use it. And how am I going to get it there? Well,